It was always going to come down to this. It was always going to be this way. This was inevitable. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then go watch the latest episode of The Last of Us before watching this. Because only then will it make any sense why I'm saying that HBO's popular game adaptation, just 2 episodes into its 2nd season, could very well be dead already. Alright, so this is the last spoiler warning I'm going to give. If you're not caught up on The Last of Us, get out of here. So, the most recent episode of The Last of Us featured what was definitely the most reviled and most controversial scene in the game series. The scene where Big Bad Abby gave Joel the Happy Gilmore treatment, using a 6-iron and taking Joel's face across the back 9, driving his soul out onto the green in the great beyond. She killed him with a golf club, is what I'm saying, as Ellie was forced to watch. Now, anyone who's even a little familiar with the second game knew the scene was coming. As I said before, it was always going to come down to this. Joel was always going to be killed, it was always going to be at the hands of angsty Abby, and Ellie was always going to become this show's sole focus. But still, even knowing this scene was coming, I'm still genuinely surprised they put it this early in the 2nd season. Because, they have to know what this is going to do to viewership, right? As Joel's life slowly flickered away on screen, you could also feel this show slowly dying along with him. Because now, this has become unquestionably Ellie's story and Ellie's story alone. And to say that people are less than impressed with Bella Ramsey's Ellie would be an understatement. And that's to say nothing of the fact that the second game's story was worse than that of the first game. So needless to say, I think things look grim for the Last of Us show moving forward. Now, before we move on to those other topics, there are a few changes that were made in adapting this scene from the game worth pointing out. The biggest change, in my opinion, is that Joel in the show was accompanied by Dina, rather than his brother Tommy like he was in the game version. Because we can't have badass Tommy further motivated to set out on a quest for vengeance in the wake of his brother's death. He needs to stay home to take care of his kid and clean the house and stuff. Instead, the honor of avenging Joel falls to Dina, because fuck it, why not? Big Bad Dina is coming for you, driven by the sadness of losing the guy who once showed her how old electronics work. Also, the show left out one of Joel's better lines he responds to Abby with, but her quote-unquote badass line was left in. And in the game, Joel didn't know Abby's reasoning for any of this, and it's left to the player to unravel the mystery in the rest of the game, but I understand changing that for the show. Also, it's a little unrelated, but I didn't think this scene was particularly well acted, if I'm being honest. It felt off. Lastly, this show's casting, let's say, went a different direction with Abby than the game, a much less controversial direction. And her physique might not make a difference in a lot of scenes, but it kinda played a role in this one, leaving us with a small woman to beat Joel to death in the show. It just doesn't hit the same. And while we're on the subject of casting for this season, they also made Dina a lot less nosy than her game counterpart. Now, if you were familiar with this scene before this last episode, just take a step back and put yourself in the shoes of someone watching this show who had no idea this was coming. You meet Abby. She's a little girl with a big grudge. She finds Joel, you get a little bit of an oh shit feeling, she found him pretty fast, and then a shotgun blast goes through his tibia. You think, well damn, this isn't going too hot. I don't know how he's gonna get out of this. Oh, Ellie's here. She'll be able to... Oh, never mind. Well, maybe she can talk Abby out of... He's dead? He can't be dead. He's dead? I'm sure people loved seeing one of their favorite characters killed by some angsty girl they met 1 episode ago. I don't even particularly care for Pedro Pascal at this point. Hey, you should check out this show. It's got that guy who's in everything else. But love him or hate him, he and his Joel character were a big reason a lot of people were watching this show. And now they're left out in the cold, with the character relegated to just flashback scenes, and a sudden shift to focusing on a character that, let's just say, has struggled to resonate with audiences. Needless to say, over the past 36 hours, quite a few people online have announced that they're done with The Last of Us. Without this channel, and a slight sense of morbid curiosity about how this show will do the rest of Ellie and Abby's story, I think I'd be done watching too. Now, while I don't think Joel's death and making the full shift to this being Ellie's story alone had to be a death sentence for this show, I think we've seen enough from Bella Ramsey's portrayal of Ellie to call it. She simply can't carry the show on her own. I thought she did better than expected in Season 1, playing a snarky 14-year-old, but now I think we've seen that that's the extent of her range. I mean, that one facial expression in her inventory can only take the character so far. And this season, she's looking more like Jay from Jay and Silent Bob than the much more well-received Ellie from the games. She's just not popular enough with audiences in this role to put this show on her shoulders. And I'm not going to make any jokes about her being the face of this show. That's too easy. I mean, too mean. And going back a bit, for anyone who would argue that The Last of Us was always Ellie's story, it wasn't. The first game and season were both Joel and Ellie's stories and their story together. The second game after this event makes it entirely Ellie's story. Also, it stupidly made it Abby's story as you play for her as some time and learn why she did what she did. And I'll tell you right now, this show will shed viewers even faster if they try and make this one about Abby too. But it was always going to be this way. The second game's story was worse than the first. A lot worse in my opinion, and the show is following the script. I don't think I even fault the show all that much for how this played out. I'm almost always a fan of adaptations just sticking to the script, and they more or less did that here. But 2 nights ago, a ton of viewers just had a rude awakening and realization that they're not actually going to like this show going forward. So again, I'm pretty surprised they went right into the scene at this pace, to the point that when they talked about the second game stretching across 2 seasons, I figured they'd end the season with this scene. Probably leaving it as the most disappointing cliffhanger ever as people return to Season 3 just to see that Joel died. But even that crappy plan would have been preferable, because as someone in charge of this show, you'd have to be completely demented to not foresee what this scene will do to this series. I mean, Season 2 was already struggling. Viewers on Rotten Tomatoes have Season 2 at a 55%, down significantly from the 87% the first season got. And there's no reason to believe they'll be able to turn things around going forward. The story of the second game just doesn't allow for it. Nope, I think this show is probably dead. Much like those infected with cordyceps, this show may still lumber forward as a shell of its former self, but it's dead. Also, I thought it was funny that this episode had this entirely not in the game Battle of Jackson going on too. It was fun to watch, but it also kind of felt like, hey, here's a big Game of Thrones level battle sequence. Please don't rate this episode poorly. But if we do see people leaving this show behind after this episode, I won't shed a tear. The creators knew where their story was heading eventually. They cast an Ellie that can't carry this show. They made all these choices. So all I can really say now is it was fun while it lasted, but The Last of Us probably just sealed its fate. And this was inevitable. Did you know this was coming? What do you think about how this show went about this scene? Do you think Ellie's story is enough to keep people watching The Last of Us? Let us know in the comments below. And remember to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to HateWatchers for reviews of other current shows and movies. Thank you for joining Abby on the back 9 with us today, and we'll catch you on the next one.